Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Epic Gangsta Tales. We got a very interesting episode today. We're gonna stay in the Lucchese crime family. It's gonna be about Vic and Gaspipe's most deadly hitter, Frank Lastorino, former consigliere in the Lucchese crime family. It's gonna be a good one, guys. Frank Lastorino is an American mobster born April 9th, 1939 in Brooklyn, New York. Lastorino was a part of the Lucchese crime family and rose as high as consigliere and was very close with Gaspipe. He had a very good friendship with Gaspipe, seeing as they both were Brooklyn guys. They knew each other well. And Gaspipe would rise to underboss of the Lucchese crime family shortly down the line. Frank Lastorino has a criminal record spanning back to the 1970s. He was involved in extortion and protection rackets, loan sharking, and illegal gambling operations. It was also well known on the streets of Brooklyn that Frank Lastorino was deadly with a gun in his hand. He would carry that reputation with him throughout his whole career in the streets and essentially in the mafia as well. Lastorino was a part of the Lucchese crime family's Brooklyn faction under then family captain Christy Tick Funari. And was close with then family soldiers Anthony Gaspipe Casso and Vic Amuso. It would be Vic and Gas that would put an eager and vicious Lastorino to work. And by work, I mean a sneaky Lastorino, laid in wait, coming up and hitting you in the back of the head. And that's exactly how Frank Lastorino made a name for himself on the streets of Brooklyn and in the Lucchese crime family. In 1986, all 5 bosses of the 5 families were all convicted and given 100 years. The commission case was historical and devastating for the mafia. It was a hard open for the RICO Act, and the government came out throwing haymakers at the ruling body of the mafia in New York and abroad, really. Serious repercussions from the commission trial. But with the commission case came big change. New bosses would have to be chosen for all 5 New York families, and for the Lucchese crime family, Anthony Tony Ducks Corallo would choose Vic Amuso to be his successor. And in turn, Vic Amuso made Anthony Gaspipe Casso his underboss, which, later on would come back to blow up in his face, but, we'll get to that. With these moves into the 2 top spots, Vic and Gas started putting together a money-printing powerhouse. And in 1987, Lastorino would get his call to the big league. And, a call and a day that every Italian gangster looks forward to, which is a phone call in which another gangster tells you, get dressed and be ready. And under Vic and Gas's administration, Lastorino would receive his button and become a made man in the Lucchese crime family. But as we well know, how the rest of Vic and Gas's reign atop the Lucchese crime family went, and it was bloody, brutal, and full of betrayal, and paranoia, to say the least, especially Gaspipe, who was given orders to whack this one and whack that one, most of which were members of the Lucchese crime family, you know what I mean? He's whacking his own on these paranoid power trips that he's going on. It's just a dangerous guy, Gaspipe. Mentally unstable, dangerous guy, And, nobody was safe in the Lucchese crime family in those days. Nobody was off limits, and Gaspipe was especially fond of Lastorino, and that's a good thing. You wanted to stay on his good side, and even still, sometimes people would fall through the cracks of his psychotic little, chessboard and whatnot. But yeah, he was very fond of Frank Lastorino, definitely. And Gaspipe, just like back in the day, would utilize Lastorino to start scratching names off the gotta-go list, One example of how brutal things got under Vic and Gas's leadership was when a paranoid Gaspipe would start rumors saying this one's a rat and that one's a rat, and then have these same people killed, and in reality, they weren't even rats. You know what I mean? It was just him conjuring up bullshit to take out, you know, rivals or anybody who could rival him for those top spots. You know what I mean? And he would manipulate Vic's mind, stuff like that. Vic was more of a, you know, he's a very serious guy. He's still the boss today. I wouldn't fuck with that guy. No way. But they say Gaspipe kind of, you know, played Machiavellian games with him a little bit. Maybe got in his head on some stuff, and these guys just started, okay, whack, 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 you know, just like crazy, you know. But, you know, it was sick what these two were getting away with, especially Gaspipe back then, you know what I mean? In 1990, during a Lucchese family blood purge, a deranged Casso would order Lastorino to whack out Lucchese family soldier Bruno Facciollo, a well-liked man who goes way back in the Lucchese crime family's history books. You know, in fact, his name is often thrown around as a candidate for being the man who whacked out Tommy DeSimone, who was portrayed in the all-time great film Goodfellas, one of my favorite movies of all time. Tommy was played by Joe Pesci. However, Bruno would be lured to a location by Lastorino where he ultimately would lose his life at Patty Testa's garage. Bruno Facciolo would walk in, and this was at Patty Testa's garage in Brooklyn. He would walk in and instantly start getting shot by Frank Lastorino. And Facciolo would fall to the ground and beg Lastorino, after he put a couple holes in him at first, please, you know, let me speak to my daughter, let me see my daughter, let me talk to my daughter one last time. And he's begging him to, you know, just please, just, you know, grant me this one wish. I don't, you know, essentially I don't even care that I'm getting whacked. Let me see my daughter one last time. It's heart-wrenching, you know what I mean? And Lastorino would respond to Facciolo's plea for mercy by pulling out a pocket knife and repeatedly plunging it into him multiple times until a half-dead Facciolo was screaming out in pain, just shoot me, it hurts. You know, he's stabbing him, you know, after he already had initially shot him so many times. It was just a brutal, unnecessary murder of a well-liked guy and a very rich history in the Lucchese crime family, especially with Bruno Facciolo, who was not a rat. The FBI later on said, you know, there was nothing. He never even spoke to an agent before. And after he would beg, you know, Lastorino, you know, just shoot me, it hurts, as he stabbed him, crazy, you know. Lastorino would pull out a second gun and pump 2 more rounds into Facciolo's head, finishing him off. And Casso wanted a message sent to the streets, so they put a dead canary in his mouth, the little yellow birds. You know what I mean? Like, Mafia's always big on doing this and that. And I honestly think that he did that so people would say, oh, okay, well, he must have talked or he must have ratted, you know, to cover Casso's ass, because it was just sick. It was sick what these guys were doing and what they got away with, you know. And Lastorino got put in a lot of uncomfortable situations, I'm sure, you know. But it would also be a very hectic year, 1990, for the Lucchese crime family, as the walls were closing in from the Windows case. That, you know, one of the biggest cases of all time, you know, federally. Like I was saying, you know, as the walls were closing in from the Windows case, a huge historical case aimed at New York's Mafia's leadership, which sent a tipped-off Amuso and Casso on the run. It was at this time that they made then-family captain Al Diaco acting boss of the Lucchese crime family, and made Lastorino an official captain of the Brooklyn crew in the Lucchese crime family. Made Lastorino a captain and put Al Diaco in charge as acting boss. This was a huge accomplishment for Lastorino, who helped establish cooperation and, you know, instill fear, you know, among the ranks and stuff like that, along with powerful fellow capos Georgie Nexapola, who we did an episode on. Very, very interesting guy, very feared guy, respected, highly respected, as well as Frankie Bones Papagna, both very feared and respected captains in the Lucchese crime family. And as Casso and Amuso ordered hit after hit that were carried out on the streets of New York. After Fat Pete Kyoto ate 13 rounds and lived to tell the tale, Vic and Gas literally pushed this guy into the arms of the FBI. He had no choice but to cooperate with the FBI after the Lucchese crime family gave him 13 reasons why, they didn't want him around anymore. That writing's on the wall. They tried to kill him. A family captain, Fat Pete Kyoto, another one that just pissed Casso off, and he's got to go. He was close to Casso, too. So it didn't matter if, it helped, but it didn't really matter. Nobody was safe,
Domino's new pepperoni stuffed cheesy bread is the best thing.
And, with all the paranoia in the Lucchese crime family back then, Al Diaco, after the failed hit on Fat Pete Kyoto, was demoted from acting boss, and Amuso and Casso put together a ruling panel to run the family's day-to-day activities, which Al Diaco was a part of the panel, but he had that feeling in his gut, and you know how that goes, that they weren't happy about Fat Pete living to tell the tale to the FBI, given the fact that Vic and Gas won the FBI's 10 most wanted list at this time. You know what I mean? And it made another cooperator out of someone who had never ever cooperated. But when you try to kill him and you fail, what choice does he have? But anyway, a meeting of the ruling panel and a few important captains were all told to attend a meeting. The ruling body of the Lucchese crime family and, a couple of the important captains were told to attend as well at the Kimberly Hotel in Manhattan. And as you well know, it was supposed to be Al Diaco's funeral that day in that room, in the Kimberly Hotel. But he caught the move, saw the fake smiles on their faces, and the gun in Mikey DeSantis' waistline, and knew he was going to be hit. So he made up, he made up an excuse to get out of there, and was pursued like the whole way by a freaked out Lastorino. It was like, hold on, wait, buddy, hold on. He's like, hold on, we still gotta talk business, we gotta talk shop and all that. And Al Diaco's like, okay, pal, I'll be back later. You guys let me know what your decision is, and we'll go from there. And he knew what time it was. You know what I mean? And just one more guy. He left that FBI. He left the Kimberly Hotel and went and got his son, who was a soldier in the family, Joseph Diaco. Tough guy, tough kid, a few hits under his belt. Grabbed his son, and those guys went and got pushed right into the arms of the FBI as well. You know what I mean? They were going to kill him. There's no going back. There's no talking. So he did the smart thing. Him and his son, they went to the FBI, and that's another one. That was the just acting boss. Now spilling the beans to the federal government because, you tried to whack them off. Two people you did that to that were important, players in the Lucchese crime family. And because of the Lucchese crime family, it was just all out of order. It was out of whack, and those two were to blame, mostly Gaspipe, It was a very bloody and chaotic time for the Lucchese crime family and their leadership that was on the run. And one of the last big moves that Amuso and Casso made before they were ultimately captured and given life sentences would be aimed at rival John Gotti in the Gambino crime family. But John Gotti at that time was in prison and had also received a life sentence, so he was off the board. He wasn't touchable, as well. So Casso stuck to his get everybody around Gotti plan. His hitters, anybody close to him or his son, John Gotti Jr., were vulnerable to get hit. They got Frankie DeChico with the car bomb in 1986. They got Eddie Lino with the two crooked cops, right around the time where John, Sammy, and Lacasio were all snatched up, off the streets for good. So there's two right there. And for their last one, and one of their more infamous hits would be tasked to Lastorino to carry out, And on April 13th, 1991, Lastorino would stalk Gambino crime family captain Bobby Borriello. A fierce Gotti loyalist would be blasted 9 times as he was carrying home some pasta sauce that he was bringing in to his family. Lastorino approached him, Bobby Borriello, on his front lawn and said, "Hey, Bobby!" You know, and when he turned around, Lastorino extended his arm and started blasting a stunned Borriello, ultimately dropping him right on his front lawn in front of his family, his kids, and killed him. A very, very sad event, and just showed how depraved some of the guys in the Lucchese family were, you know. This was Casso'S on the run. FBI's 10 most wanted. He's ordering hit after hit after hit. Just a wackadoo. You know, they talk about it on the No Excuses podcast all the time. Great podcast. RJ and Mikey Scars. I mean, fantastic. They nail it with Gaspipe and Sammy and all that stuff. It's an awesome show. Big fan. This was a big deal, the Borriello hit, you know, and Borriello was an important and well-loved and respected guy in the Gambino crime family. Vic Amuso and Gaspipe would make Lastorino the consigliere of the Lucchese crime family as a reward for knocking off Borriello and essentially sending Junior Gotti and the Gambino crime family into a state of confusion and fear. You know, throwing a wrench into their plans big time. But either way, all good things come to an end. And toward the end of 93, basically 1994, massive indictments of labor racketeering, extortion, loan sharking, illegal gambling, and murder charges were put on dozens of members of the Lucchese crime family, including Lastorino, who was charged with the murder of Bobby Borriello and the attempted murders of one-time family boss Stephen Crea when him and Georgie Zapola were plotting to take over the family and whack him out. They got him on that for attempted murder charges, Stephen Crea. John Gotti Jr., you know, they had plans to whack him out. And Nicky Carrazzo, you know, another big name in the Gambino crime family, would have really, you know, thrown them into, you know, just chaos if they would have, you know, they obviously had bigger plans than just hitting Bobby Borriello and Lino and all that stuff, you know, but the FBI had other plans for everybody, you know, probably saved a lot of people's lives. And it, you know, Lastorino as well was charged with extortion and loan sharking, you know, for him independently, not just the main RICO charges that hemmed everybody in. You know, so these charges would earn Frank Lastorino a 20-year prison sentence. And he would stand tall and not break the code like many others, like Gaspipe ended up folding. There was a lot of them that ended up, you know, breaking instead of making, you know. But Lastorino wouldn't be one of those guys. And he would do his time, and in 2008, Lastorino would be released from federal prison. And sadly, on November 5th, 2022, Frank Lastorino, the one-time consigliere of the Lucchese crime family from 1991 to 1993, would pass away of old age, you know. A solid and feared man who was ferocious with a gun in his hand. A man's man, to say the least. But anyways, guys, this has been another episode of Epic Gangster Tales. I hope you liked the episode. If you did, please like, comment, share, and most importantly, guys, I know you've been listening because the subscribers are going through the roof. Subscribe, guys. It makes a huge difference, and it makes everything that much easier. So thank you guys again for rocking with me. I hope you had a good weekend. Take care, and I'll see you next weekend.